Welcome back. I'm gonna record another episode here. So let's go ahead and see what kind of missions we can pick up this time. We got testing, flee. Okay, so we're just gonna do a basic test of the rocket. That's an easy enough thing to do. Let's go for testing a stacked decoupler. We can do that too. Okay, so this will be easy enough, and we'll keep going from here. So we can do most of this mission the same thing. The only thing that's a little bit different is we took on a mission to test our stacked decoupler. So we'll put the stacked decoupler in on the bottom here. So stacked decouplers are if you have a multiple stage vehicle, such as this, then with the stacked decoupler you can separate out the stage and you can let go of the bottom one in order to save some mass. This ends up being just a lot of mass and you can't get very far with just it. So we're not actually going to put a second rocket on, because the whole point of this is to test this stuff out at the launch site, which will need to be on the ground in order to get credit for that. But we're going to test both of these parts out. Next time, we'll try building an actual rocket that will go at least outside of the atmosphere. We might even make it to space. We'll see. Might even make it to an orbital. I don't think we have enough technology to really let us do that without a lot of fancy work. Okay, so we're going to test this out. First, we're going to make sure we don't have the same problem we did last time. Okay. This is actually somewhat realistic. SpaceX does tests like this on the launch pad where they're testing out some new piece of equipment to see if it works. Every time they do a rocket, they have a static fire test that will tell them that, hey, the rocket's actually working before they do anything. Now, we're actually going to launch from here, but it's perfectly reasonable to do these tests on the launch site. So let's go ahead and launch. This time we're going to head a little bit more towards the ocean. Go for a different area, so you get more science from different biomes. And so the grasslands is this biome over here. We've already done that, so we're going to do something a little bit different. Now we're going fast enough where it's actually pretty hard for us to maneuver. And you see how quickly we're slowing down. Even though we're 6 kilometers up, we're approaching the height of Mount Everest. Although we're not going to quite get that high. We would be slowing down even more if we were lower, so having that lower thrust to start out with really actually allows us to go higher than we would otherwise. Although maybe I kicked it down a little bit too much. We'll hold off on deploying the parachute. Let's see what the mystery goo... mystery goo will give us the best results if we wait until we're actually in the ocean, because we'll get more science credit from that. So, time warp here. The physics engine doesn't work as well if you time warp, so you gotta be careful. So we'll start to parachute. Now, of course, the United States lands most of its rockets in the ocean. Most of its manned capsules. For a number of reasons. There's some excellent videos out there why that is the case. But the bottom line is because the ocean is very convenient for where we can launch our rockets. Namely, in Florida is the best place for us to launch rockets in the whole United States. So it makes a lot of sense to land them in the ocean in the event of an emergency. And if you can land it in an emergency, you can land there anytime. The Russians, of course, tend to land on land like we did last time. Their best rocket sites are in the middle of land. It's pretty abandoned. So we're underwater here a little bit. So we'll collect it and see if we get some more science, which is good. We're we're gonna rotate the craft around. And see, do we get a crew for it? Sure. And then just for the fun of it, let's just pop out of here. Now, in reality, you wouldn't leave the space capsule unless you absolutely had to. They actually did float the space capsules in the early days of the space program, and still today, on the ground like this before they came and rescued them with like helicopters and whatnot. There's only a couple of instances that happen, and actually if the astronauts got out and any seawater got into their spacesuit, it could be pretty problematic. They could possibly go under, which of course is not good. But okay, so let's get back in. And we've got our little bit of extra science. Now, let's go get some more missions. We've completed all our missions, good. Yeah, we'll try this. Flight above Kerbal. So we have to get pretty high and pretty fast. That'll be good, we can do that, and we're gonna escape the atmosphere. Let's go ahead and just do it. Okay. So let's design our new rocket here. Now, in reality, you would never do a single-purpose rocket like this. The development cost for rockets is quite high. So all we have is this little tiny fuel tank, and we have this that'll get us pretty high. But we have side decouplers too. So let's just take some of these. Liquid fuel tends to work pretty good for the higher stages. Now, good rocket design. You want your most efficient rocket engines higher up. You have a little bit of monopropellant on here. That's just for basic control in space. We're actually going to take that off because we're not going to control this in space. Now, you see here, there's a number of different metrics here. The thrust is important. You want to make sure that you're still going higher. You need more thrust the heavier rocket you have, but we're not super worried about them. The main thing we're worried about is the ISP. An ISP is a measure of how efficient a rocket engine is. So basically, it says for every second that you are thrusting, how much, 1 second of fuel will thrust how much. So you could have, for 320 pounds of fuel, you can have 1 pound of thrust for each one of those pounds of fuel. It's a little bit hard to explain, but higher is good. 300 is actually pretty good. The engine is less efficient when it is in the ground, on the ground in the atmosphere, and it's more efficient when you get higher. So this is going to be used higher up. So we're going to go ahead and use this engine. Now in reality, this engine bell would probably be bigger for a vacuum engine because they tend to be bigger for that. Okay, so lower, we can't use this many parts. So let's go ahead and take some of these. And we'll just stack them together. So we'll put 2 of these symmetrically on. And we'll fix the staging here. Oops. We forgot to put our decoupler on, so let's do that. So these go here, these go here. We'll we'll limit the thrust a little bit. Not as much as we did for the other ones. And did we get the aerodynamic cone? Yeah, we did. So we're gonna put some aerodynamic cones to make this a little bit better. Okay, so this is kind of a mess, but it'll do. Oh, and we have our thermometer. I forgot about that. So let's go ahead and put our thermometer on the opposite side of this space goo. Okay. That looks pretty good. Let's give this a shot. Check the stage. Ooh. Separate after the rockets are gone, right? Because otherwise this would be really bad. And let's put the engine firing at the same time. In reality, you let this do... Well, we'll go with reality. Okay. So we have our little rocket here. Little mini Falcon Heavy. Now, you'll notice we're tilting a little bit. We don't have nearly as much ability to control the rocket as we did with some of with our previous launches, because this is a lot bigger, and as mentioned before, basically all of the control authority is in the upper part of the rocket. We're actually tilting over quite a bit. That's not good, but we'll see what we can do. Now, we forgot to put the heat shield on to fulfill the mission, but that's okay. I'm not sure if we're going to get high enough anyways. So separate them out. Now, some of the early Falcon launches, they actually had issues with this. And so we have control authority coming from the engine here. So I lit the engine even though we were a little bit wonky, because I knew it would help us to point in a better direction. And we're actually really... Wow, I'm screwing this up. Okay. Been a little while since I've played this heavily, but that's okay. So we're launching here. We're going... we're going to get outside of the atmosphere, probably. Okay. So, what happened there? The fuel went out a lot quicker, because the liquid fuel tends to take a lot more space. It's not as dense as other fuel, so it doesn't have as much fuel despite the appearances. Oh, hey, there's the music. We hit orbit. We're well into space. So let's take a look in the orbital view. Wow, we're actually getting pretty high. You see the moon there, called Mun. Mun. So we'll go ahead and warp here. We're in deep space. Unfortunately, we don't have science. As actually happened, the first few missions you couldn't get out at all of the space capsule until you hit the ground. They didn't have the spacesuits to do that, and it took until Gemini before they were able to do that. Well, that's actually what we have here. So we're in the atmosphere, although we're just in the upper parts. We're slowing down a little bit, but not that much. Should have gotten the report from when we were in space, but that's okay. Oh no, we're gonna lose the engine. That's okay. I think we lost the mystery goo container, and we are going way too fast. So we did something too... And we lost the Kerbal. Okay, so let me explain what happened here. We were going in at way too sharp of an angle. And because we were going so sharp, we didn't have enough time to slow down. Now, in Apollo 13, when it was returning, they were afraid that it was either going to be too sharp or too shallow, and it was going to have similar issues. There was a safety window that they had to be kind of skimming the atmosphere to let it slow it down gracefully. We failed that, and so therefore we lost our Kerbal. Poor Kerbals. Sadly, they will move on. Anyways, we'll be back next time with more of this. If you guys like this, please let me know. I really want to know if this is something worth continuing. But you can see here, not a lot left of the spacecraft, and 18 Gs, even without the crash landing that we had there at the end, is just far, far too much. So you see, we hit the ground going at 940 meters per second. That's super, super fast. But, oh well. Lesson learned for next time. We'll just have to be a little bit more careful. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.